welcome to Kate Anjou's Book Reviews, the place where we shine a spotlight on indie books and their authors. So today we are going to be covering Ashen Heart by Sabrina Voerman. That is out on the 15th of March this year and available for pre-order now. So let's get into it. So Ashen Heart is the follow-up to Blood Coven, and it's also really worthwhile checking out. And it's the second book in the Bloodbound series. Although it's part of a series, it is its own standalone novel as well. There are nods and references to other books in the series, but you don't need to have read those books to follow this story at all, and vice versa as well. So, don't think, oh, I can't read this one until I've read Blood Coven, because that's not the case. But as I said, I do recommend you read Blood Coven because it's a very good book. Basically, we follow a girl called Terenia Luca, and she is pretty badly treated by her family, and she has almost a rivalry going on with her sister, her younger sister Asta, and they very much dislike each other. This goes beyond just normal sibling rivalry, and because of various incidents that occur, which I'm not going to go into because this is, as always, a spoiler-free review. Terenia has to leave town. And then we sort of jump forward 10 years later, and she is living a particular type of life. It's not really going as she had envisioned. And she gets granted this opportunity to essentially be able to grasp everything that she's ever wanted: eternal beauty, eternal youth, and ultimate power, essentially. And that's very much the bare bones of the plot. And that's kind of all I want to go into in terms of any sort of summary. I will be delving into other things as the review goes on, but that's the bare bones of the plot to kind of get you started. So the characters in this, they're a whole new set of characters that we've not met before. We have, as I mentioned, Terenia. And Terenia, she is just one of the most deliciously brilliant characters that I've come across in a while. She is multifaceted, as is all of Sabrina's characters, are Sabrina's characters rather. She has loads of layers going on. She is intelligent, she's cunning, she's strategic, she's power hungry, but she also has a vulnerability. As much as she wouldn't want anyone to see it, there is a vulnerability there. She wants not only power, but to be adored and worshipped and admired and feared. We start off very much in her corner. She is treated so awfully by the people who are supposed to love her most. She is shown a kindness through this brothel owner, this madame called Madame Scarlet, and she teaches her the ways of witchcraft. And Terenia uses that power to forward herself. But she's not afraid to get her hands dirty. She's not afraid to use all of the tools in her arsenal to get what she wants. And as we see this character develop and her story unfold, we start to question things about morality and her ethics, and is this worth it? And at the same time, though, we still root for her, even though she's not always the most ethical of people. There's always an understandable reason why she does what she does. She's a very human character for someone who kind of ends up is not really someone who we would associate with humanity, I would say. There's like a turning point, but she is very human. No one's perfect. Sabrina really deals in the morally grey, and how nothing is black and white, and how, really good people can do terrible things, and awful people can do good things. And it's just all about motivation and the situation that you have in life. So it's really interesting to see her develop. And as you'll see in the interview with Sabrina, there's lots more of her story to be told, much more than what I'm giving here. And it's very exciting, really. It's a very exciting character. There is a lot in this story about femininity and feminine rage and taking the power back, but there are also a multitude of really great male characters. We've got this man called Roman, and he is the head of this, essentially a blood cult, and it's called the Brotherhood. And he and his two brothers, Ivan and Nikolai, they run this blood cult, and they have a deal with the local village people. And he is the one that offers Terenia this path that she can choose. And their dynamic is wonderful. They are both so cunning. They are both so driven. And they have this sort of almost cat and mouse dynamic going on, and you don't know who's got the upper hand and you know, who's getting one over, and you know, and it's so full of twists and turns. You never really know what's going on. It's really, really great to see. And he's got, so you can tell, like, he has got such a rich history in his life. And he is, again, he's a very stoic character. He doesn't give much away, but thanks to the quality of Sabrina's writing, we do still get so much from him as to the type of person that he is. And by the end, like, he'll completely blow you away. That's all I'm going to say. And then we have Ivan, and Ivan is Ivan. Well, okay. So when we meet him, he's wrestling a bear for fun. Just to give you like an idea of his type of character. You know, he's very much a brutish man. He's completely driven by his id factor, you know, his carnal desires, his base pleasures, his, you know, he just, yeah, he likes to indulge. And there is a lovable quality about him, and he brings the spice. Not all the spice, but some. And he is another one where don't judge him too quickly, you know, because he'll surprise you. And again, that's all I want to say on that. And then Nikolai is kind of, out of the three of them, he's the heart. You know, like, you could say that Roman is the brains and Ivan is the muscle, and Nick is the heart. And he and his brothers don't always see eye to eye, and we find out a lot more about him in another book yet to come. But he is very important to this story and how these characters and a lot of this plot develops. And we see a very different side of humanity and a very different side of this world that we're in through him, because a lot of the characters that we read are very bloodthirsty, very like power hungry, and very meticulous. And he tries to think with his heart and think with trying to be a better person. And he doesn't always do as he's supposed to, and that can cause a lot of trouble for him. And it's a really lovely he's a really lovely character. And again, we don't know too much about him, but we do still get very much a sense of who he is and what he's about, and the kind of struggles that he's gone through. And as I say, we do find out more about him down the line in this series. So, you know, if you like what you read in this one, then definitely keep an eye on Sabrina Voerman's Instagram and things, and keep an eye out for releases, because that book will be out next year, in 2025. So yeah, it's definitely one that you want to keep your eye on for sure. And then there's like a lot of sort of smaller side characters. We've got Madame Scarlet, who I mentioned before. She's a really wonderful character. I really like her a lot, and she's kind of the kind of person that I aspire to be when I'm a grown up. You know, like she's just, you know, and again, she's one of these people that aren't always black and white. She's, you know, she's a good person, but she is considered a sinful woman, and she has a lot more than meets the eye. But I mean, you read her and you just can't help but fall in love. She's wonderful. We have Asta, who, she is a conniving little cow. And is really the driving force behind a lot of Terenia's motivation for things, as well as her mother, who you just can't help but loathe. And there are lots of side characters within the Brotherhood and within the court that they discuss and strategize with, and things like that. So, you know, a lot of the politics are there, and they're all really interesting. And I don't know, but I have a feeling that they're going to come into things later. And also, we have Anya, who is a confidant of Terenia, one of the very few people, if maybe the only person, that she feels that she can trust. And even then, I don't think she trusts her completely. But again, we see another side of Terenia through Anya. So Anya is a very important person. And I really think that we're going to see a lot more of her later on in the series. Again, I don't know, but I would suspect that is the case. And I honestly can't wait for that. It's going to be really good, I think. So the setting, this world is not our world. It's a historical fantasy. So, it's set, it would be like, if it were in our world, it would be a few hundred years ago. There's no modern technology. Everything's, you know, in the forests and in the little villages, and it's all, you know, wise women and like natural remedies and those kinds of things. It's very much written in that style as well. It really, you know, you really get sucked into this world. And even though it's not our world, you really, when you read it, you really just get such a sense of the type of place that it is and what the parameters are there and the kind of mentalities that they would be holding. The world itself has a real kind of otherworldly vibe, not because just of the way that it's described, or the fact that, you know, you've got magic and folklore and like an element of sort of mythology and things, you know, but also just in the names. I mean, things like Terenia, and, you know, Nikolai, and even like the place names, like, you know, Terenia is from a place called Sylvania. It sounds like similar things that we know of, but just that bit different. And so you kind of get this very unnerving sense of like, we're not in Kansas anymore, you know, like that sort of energy. So that's the other thing as well. Like Sabrina just has this really fantastic ability to create this whole world. And it's so clear in her mind about, you know, what is what, where everything is situated, how everyone sort of relates to each other, and how it all kind of comes together in this bigger picture. And we only see a very small glimpse of that, but you get this sense of this much bigger world within what we're shown, like, so outside, sorry, of what we're shown. So yeah, it's really, well, magical to be a part of, and you really do get sucked into it, and you really do feel like you are there with these characters in this place. And this place is a dangerous and cruel place, and you are not safe, and you have to have your wits about you at all times. So yeah, it's exciting. I've alluded to the writing, but it really would be remiss of me not to talk about it. Sabrina has this incredible ability to convey so much in not a lot. You know, like she just has to write a couple of sentences and boom, you are transported right to where she wants you to be. It's a talent that I've never managed to possess. My ethos clearly is, why say one word when you can say 20? But you know, it's a really wonderful talent that she has, and everything is for a reason. Everything is very precise, very particular, and it all contributes to this overall writing style, which is enrapturing, is the best way that I can describe it. I'm not even sure if enrapturing is a word, but you just get completely sucked into this, and it's very authentic and a very organic way of writing. For those of you who checked out my last episode with Stephen, Sabrina adopts a very similar writing style to him, in that she lets her characters tell that story, and she just fits the story about what her characters are telling her, where they are supposed to go, and it's really inspiring. And the way that she runs with these ideas is just, it's quite incredible, and I can't really describe it any better than that. You'll just have to read it to see what I mean. Within this book, we have not only heteronormative relationships going on, but we also have queer representation as well. And I think that that is not only great to have that varied representation, but it's also very authentic. Authentic seems to be the word of the day, but it is. And I feel like, you know, these types of characters with their lifestyle of not limiting themselves and not wanting to restrict themselves in any way, you know, they've lived for as long as they have, and lived a very full lifestyle. Of course they're going to want to explore every side of life, whether that's in their activity, sexual or otherwise, whether it's in the people that they choose to love in whatever shape or form that love takes. And love is love, whether it's between same sex or different sex, or whether it's emotional or whether it's physical, you know, and all of these sides get explored within this book. And it's never, there's a lot of spice in this book. It's not like a smart book, but there is a lot of spice. And is it sexy? Yes. Is it enjoyable to read? Absolutely. Is it varied? Yeah. And it's also, every single point will have, there'll be something about it that either forwards the plot or develops a character arc in some way. You know, and I think that that is such a great way of going about it, because there is a lot of darkness to this book. And I think if the spicy scenes were to be too frivolous and too, you know, oh, going to do some of this and going to do some of that, it wouldn't suit the tone of the book. It's a very intense tone to the story, and there is some humor in it, but not a lot. And it's, the characters for the most part are very kind of brooding or calculated, and it's all kind of that. And so I feel like the sex scenes mirror that as well. You know, they are quite intense, they're quite devilish, but it's not like, oh, such and such had a romp in the back, you know, sort of thing. It's like, it's more decadent than that. And it really suits the tone of the story. And the fact that Sabrina doesn't shy away from LGBTQ relationships is really great to see. And I think, you know, we need more of that. It's starting to come through more and more in literature, and especially in fantasy literature as well. You know, I think that there's quite a lot of scope to play with different sexualities and things, and explore that. But like, it's really good to see that it's not being shied away from, and Sabrina certainly doesn't do that. So yeah, it's really good to see. So in summary, this book, honestly, it's fantastic. It's well written. It's fully developed. It has rich, multifaceted characters. It's intriguing. It has twists and turns and power play and different dynamics. There's a whole kind of like, you know, bring down the patriarchy kind of energy to it, but you know, within that world. And it's plays around with mythology and folklore and history, and there's heart to it, and there's blood and gore, and I mean, it's gothic as you like, you know, like everything, just every page of this book feels like it's either sparkling with magic or dripping in blood, you know, like every page. And I tell you what, this book goes to some dark places. Like, I'm a big horror fan. I'm a big horror book reader. I'm a big horror movie watcher. I always have been. And this book, there were one or two moments where I was like, oh, okay. Ooh, right then. You know, it goes to some places that not a lot of books have the balls to do, at least not ones I've read lately. And fair play. It really is fantastic. I don't have a physical copy of it. It's still in its very, 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 very final stages of its final editing. It's got a stunning cover. If you're following my Instagram or like my TikTok or any of my socials, you'll have seen its cover. It's gorgeous. And it's gonna go so nicely you know, on my shelf. But I did read the beta. I was one of the beta readers, so you're welcome. And I've been sent like an e-copy since then and things. So yeah, God, I just can't wait to have it in my hands. Me and physical media. But yeah, so it's a really fantastic book. It really delves into morality and what, you know, when's it okay, when are things not okay, where is it that you cross the line to get what you want, you know, like Terenia really uses every single weapon in her arsenal and then some. And for the most part you're kind of like, yeah, and then every now and then you're like, ooh, okay. It's just a book. When you finish it, you're just itching to know what happens next. You just, I'm gonna have to wait a little while, but we won't have to wait too long for this book, thankfully. So that leads me on to when it's going to be released. I mentioned it earlier. It's the 15th of March. You can pre-order it now, though. Please go and pre-order it. Make sure you get your hands on a copy, whether that's a physical copy or on your Kindle or ebook. It's available through Quill and Crow Publishing and also Amazon. I think I said in the interview that it wasn't available for pre-order, or I said something that it wasn't available. I can't remember. I think I've said somewhere that it wasn't available for pre-order through Amazon, but that was a misnomer on my part. It absolutely is. Yeah, just go and order. And yeah, and if you don't get a chance to before then, it is out on the 15th of March. And yeah, you'd be very remiss to miss this one. If you would like to follow me on social media, I am under kate.anjou. Wait. Oh my goodness. It's the dots that get me. Okay. It's kate.anjous.book.reviews. It's like, it's your name, Kate. Apparently you can't get that right. So anyways, yeah, I am available on TikTok and Instagram under that handle. You can find me on Facebook at Kate Anjou's Book Reviews. or you can email me at kateanjusbookreviews@outlook.com. So yeah, go ahead and follow online, and you'll be able to see reels and little memes, and there's a lot of, on the Facebook book in particular, there's a lot of interaction with me and my followers. So if that's kind of what you like to do and you want to share what you're reading, either pop it on the Facebook page or tag me. I'm always so interested to see what people are reading. It doesn't have to be horror and fantasy. Those are my genres, but they're not my only genres. I am always interested in finding new and different authors, and again, it doesn't have to be indie. It can be literally anything. I like to focus on indie on this show because of reasons that I've said in the intro about shining a light. But I'm, anything that you want to share with me book related, please, please, please. I would love to see what you guys are into. And if you want to contact me about the show at all, if you are an author who wants to come on, or if you have any questions or feedback, again, feel free to get in touch. I would love to hear from you. So yeah. Next episode, I will be joined by Catherine Ferns. She is a fantastic author, also under Quill and Crow. Shout out to Quill and Crow. And we will be discussing her book, All the Parts of the Soul. That is available now. So if you want to read it before the next episode comes out, that will be coming out at the end of February. So we've got a little bit of a break now, but it just gives me time to read the book, honestly. But yeah, I'm very excited to read it, and I'm so excited to chat with her on the show. If you are listening on Spotify or Apple or any of the podcast platforms, and you want to hear the interview with Sabrina, just continue listening. It will be up in a minute. Or otherwise, if you are on my YouTube channel, which is also kate.orangejuice.book.reviews, then you can just go onto my channel and it will be on there for your viewing pleasure. As always, thank you so much for listening or watching and engaging. Really do appreciate it, as do the authors who are involved in this show. And I will catch you next time. Hi, and welcome to Kate Anjou's Book Reviews. And today we are joined by author Sabrina Voerman. Welcome.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Of course. So you've been all right?
I have, yes, I've been excellent.
Good. So today that we are here to discuss your upcoming novel, Ashen Heart. This is the second book of the Bloodbound series under Quill and Crow Publishing. I always get my mouth tongue-tied. Yeah, thank you. When I try and say like crow. But first I want everyone watching and listening to know a little bit about you as a person, and a bit about who you are, and before we get started into your book. So yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm a hot mess. No, I kid. Sort of. I'm Sabrina Voerman. I'm from the west coast of Canada on Vancouver Island. And I have been writing for probably about 15 years now. And my books have found their home, which has been awesome. I really like doing outdoorsy things and seeing nature and whatnot. You've been here. I've shown you around.
Yeah.
And I like
we are
to...
friends as well.
Best friends.
Kind of.
And I really like to weave in the nature that's around me into the stories that I tell. Outside of writing, I'm a big hiker. That's pretty much where my descriptors end. So I'll read a lot of books on my downtime. And you
like movies and things, and
yeah, and I was going with coffee, if that's where I was headed.
And coffee, yes.
Yeah.
Big fans.
Somehow I don't actually have one. I'm drinking water.
I have water too. I was going to have a coffee, but I thought it'd be really distracting if I was just sat here
It would probably also be very distracting if we had to pause it 13 times for me to pee.
That's very true. Yeah. Good shout. Good call. Yeah. So as I said, we're here to discuss Ashen Heart. Oh my goodness, we're here to discuss Ashen Heart. So without going into too much detail, can you just give us like a brief synopsis of people who haven't read it yet, what to expect?
Yeah. So Ashen Heart is the second book in the Bloodbound series. The first book is Blood Coven. Blood Coven follows this group of witches in dual timelines, whereas Ashen Heart follows a character who is related to some of the characters in Blood Coven, but it's her own story completely. Her name is Terenia Luca, and it is about her journey through life and this place where she started and the goals and aspirations, that I don't know if I can call them goals and aspirations. Essentially,
well, she's a bit of a hot mess, and then she sort of and then she just sort of finds her way.
She finds a blood cult, we could say.
We could say.
And her goals to basically obtain power. She's power hungry. She wants what she wants, and she will use every weapon in her arsenal to obtain that. And she doesn't care who stands in her way. She's going to get what she knows she deserves.
Yeah.
She's too hot to settle.
Absolutely. And obviously, you know, with this type of book, you know, fairy tale retellings are kind of what this series is about. But I would say to anyone who's maybe, I don't know, because there's been so many fairy tale retellings, people might be getting a little bit sort of jaded by it all and just like, oh, okay. But I would argue that these are, I mean, I've read a fair few, and these are unlike any fairy tale retellings that I've ever come across, because I feel like the fairy tale on which they're based is just a very loose blueprint. Like, you know, I've like recommended Blood Coven people, and I'm not really I've just said, I'll just read this book. And it's only been right near the end have they kind of triggered in their mind, like, oh, is this, you know, because it's really very much its own world, its own characters, its own storylines, and multiple plot lines, as you say, that run through. And you know, and these books, they are a series, but they're standalone as well. Like, each novel could be read by itself, right?
Yeah, definitely. I that's the way I wanted to write them, because I prefer standalones to series. And this was never intended to be a series. Just the way it worked out is that it did, and I think it worked out great. But to touch on your fairy tale thing, I use like very, very loose pulls from fairy tales. Like, I would say Blood Coven is the closest one to a retelling, because it has Red, it has the wolf, it has grandma, it has straying from the path. Whereas these other ones, Ashen Heart and the third book, which I won't go into on this one, but they're so loose. Like, if you read the whole thing, if you read Ashen Heart start to finish, you would pick up on clues that it is a evil queen story, but it's not a Snow White story. No. But I pull elements from the tale of Snow White and apply them very gently into the series. But it's more of a tipping off point than it is the story. And I'm not trying to follow the story of Snow White. I'm not trying to follow the story of the evil queen. There's elements in them that I love, and I wanted to play around with them in my own world. I mean, there's no vampires in Snow White, but there is now.
And you don't have all of, like, it's a very dark story as well. I mean, there's no cutesy dwarves, there's no, you know, like, it's, you know, it's a blood cult, it's vampires, it's like that power drive. There's some, you know, really brutal scenes in there, you know, and like, again, in Blood Coven as well, like, yes, I agree in terms of it's probably closer to its original sort of inspiration than Ashen Heart, but again, it's not for kids. It's like, it's,
oh god, no.
You know, it could probably be bandied around as like young adult, but actually I really like, there's some really like brutal imagery in there, there's gore, there's like really mature themes, and this only it is expanded upon in Ashen Heart. You know, like, for the first time we're seeing like a bit of spice, you know, and we've got this sort of anti-hero where where like Red, there is an element of like a morally grey kind of thing near the end, but she's definitely someone who we relate to and can sympathize with. And while we do sympathize with Terenia, she very quickly develops this kind of ruthlessness that we still find we're rooting for, but it's not so clean cut. And morally grey characters, I mean, there's something that you really, really explore and play around with in your books. I mean, in Ashen Heart, I can't think of a single character that isn't like sinful or, you know, evil or whatever in some way. It's not all who they are, but like there's not a single character that isn't tarnished in some way, you know?
Yeah.
How important is that to you, like and why is that something that you keep coming back on?
Well, first off, they're more interesting characters. For years, like I would say all of us were raised on the hero, the underdog, the one who makes the choice that is right. And just because you make the choice that's right for like the greater good doesn't mean it's the right choice for you. And selflessness, altruism, yeah, it's great in real life. But I don't really want to read about those characters. To a degree, there are characters in my series that do make those decisions, that are altruistic, but they're also, they've done bad things, and that's what makes them a bit more well-rounded. And I would say that the third book has the most morally good characters in it. Blood Coven, morally gray. The third book, we've got, you know, they have a moral compass. They're willing to make hard choices and take life, but they are still good people.
Good things
in like Ashen Heart,
bad things for the right reasons. Ashen Heart is that very kind of like, this is my aim, this is what I need to do, and this is how I'm going to get there, and like, you know, screw everybody else.
Author Stephanie Kemler, who wrote the Blood Mad series, she described it as morally bankrupt, and I really like that, because
that's excellent.
Do all my characters have like a push that guides them to what they're doing? Like Terenia's got a lot of shit, but her backstory doesn't necessarily make her the villain. She's choosing to be the villain. She could choose the high road.
Well, this is like, if we have this, the I think the closest thing to like a good moral character is is a madame of a brothel, and you know, but she says, like, you know, she came from these, you know, she sees a lot of herself in Terenia, and she came from these awful times, and what she's done is she's bettered herself, she's carved out this life for herself that she's wanted, where she helps others, and you know, and she says, like, that's my vengeance, it's not going back and whatever. And you know, Terenia, as we see, she, as much as she learns from Madame Scarlet, there's a different route that she takes, and it's that thing again, it plays with its readers about like, is, while it's understandable, is that the right way? Is that, could she have done anything else? Would it have been true to who she is as a person, and how she's been pushed and pushed and pushed to make these decisions? And I think it's a really interesting exploration of morality, choice, and decision making, you know. So absolutely fair play. And like and how important is that to you as like an author, of like having that blurred line between sort of good and evil, you know, like how important is that?
Well, I think it's so important. You touched on it, staying true to Terenia's character, to make the calls that she does. She could be like Madame Scarlet, but those choices, she sees those choices maybe don't benefit people. And when she makes the choices to be more morally bankrupt, she progresses. And so we, as a species, as humans, when we get validation, we continue to, you know, it builds a habit, it builds how our brains work. Her making the good decisions and the choices that are maybe better for her, they don't get her where she needs to go. And so, you know, as an author, following my character's story, I don't write a story, I write a character who tells me their story. And so where she starts and where she ended up, that wasn't my decision. That was, she told me where she needed to go, and I went with that. And that to me is the most important part of being an author, is honoring the story of the character, and whether that makes them, like, Terenia is likable, but she's an awful character. Like, I don't expect anyone to be like, I want them to love her without necessarily saying, yeah, I think all her decisions were the right choices.
Yeah, and I think that
we don't always make the right choices as people.
No, exactly. And I think those are the juicier characters. I think those are the characters that we remember, that we discuss, you know, because I think if there is just one facet to them, then they're just boring, you know. And like, if they always do the right thing or always do the wrong thing, then it's no longer interesting, because it's almost predictable. So I think Terenia is a fantastic character. I think she's just so well-rounded and delightfully wicked, but like she has so much, I don't want to say heart, because she's very, like, she's had to be like shut off, no pun intended, but like but at the same time she's driven by her emotions so much, and you know, and these emotions aren't always positive. They're not all, you know, they are greed, they are power hungry, they are, you know, through anger and envy and, you know, all of these more negative feelings. But I feel like those things are so relatable, whether or not we want to admit it or not. Yeah, I mean, you said before about you know, like the story originally was going to be just Blood Coven, it was going to be like one and done novel, but now it's expanded into the series. Like, how is Blood Coven and then the series as a result, how has that sort of developed for you? Because I know that you've been writing Blood Coven for a long time. So yeah, like, tell me about how that all came about.
Yeah, so I originally wrote Blood Coven, totally different story 15 years ago than it is today, of course. It's really grown a lot in the characters. It used to just be like 4 characters. That was all that was in there. And so when I wrote another book in the series, which is the 3rd book in this series, I realized I could connect the two. I was just like, I'll just name drop, you know? And that story, what's going to be the 3rd book, it wrote itself. It was like, I couldn't stop. I pulled over driving to type, like, okay, you got to write this right now. And it was just like on my phone. That story just took me away. And the characters that imbued themselves in that story, Roman and Ivan, they're main characters in Ashen Heart. And because I liked writing them so much, I was like, I need more of them. And how can I bring together book 3 and Blood Coven? And I created this character who's related to somebody in Blood Coven, who interacts with characters who are related in the 3rd book. And so that, I remember when you first read Ashen Heart and you messaged me and you said, this feels like it was the first book you wrote in the series, because it ties everything, it connects everything.
Yeah.
And so that's what the story was. It was connecting these worlds. You've got the Luca family, you've got the Sokolov family, and bringing them together. That's really what Ashen Heart in the background is doing.
Yeah.
And then that lended itself to rewriting Blood Coven completely, to give it more substance, to give it more characters, to give it more of a feminist story than it originally was. And then that's where the 4th book brings them all together, sort of in like an Avengers style wrap up. And it just kept coming back. Like, even though it took me like over a decade to finish this series, it kept returning. It kept going, okay, we need more. You need to elaborate more on these characters. You need to finish their stories. And so that's what I did. And I almost feel like a part of me has, I don't want to say died, that's not the right word, but concluded, because the series is done. Like, I would love to write more, but there's a point where you can't.
Yeah.
Because then you're just sort of kicking a dead horse, which...
Yeah, you don't want to... Yeah, so no,
I did write another one.
Novellas. Oh, you did? This is new.
And yeah, so it's actually Nikolai's backstory, but I've kept that one. After I wrote it, I was like, I think this is just for me. I think this is for me to know Nikolai through and through.
Oh.
And understand his beginning.
Yeah.
But it didn't need to be part of the series, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Well, we'll wait to see what Quill and Crow have to say on that.
Yeah, I have to dig it out of the probably the old laptop, actually.
Oh,
I don't really know where it's hovering.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm going to bug you until I get to read it. No, that's lush. And obviously this has gone through like a really big journey and things. And there was a release of 2 of the books previously, and they're now discontinued because there's been rewrites and redistribution since you've joined Quill and Crow. And so how was that for you in terms of, you know, and having that change and sort of, because you were self-published previously, and then sort of having that, you know, having that overarch of a publisher kind of thing, and how was that transition?
Well, I originally self-published the first book and then another book in the series, and I needed it out there, and it wasn't maybe the best avenue. I think there's so many avenues for publishing that it's hard when you're first getting into it to kind of know what's the right. I didn't have connections in this publishing world. I didn't know people. I was like so green in this world. And I don't talk a lot. Yeah, exactly. I don't talk a lot about the self-published release of some of these books in the Bloodbound series, obviously because I want people to read the new versions. I want people to read Blood Coven. I want them to experience how it's changed, and it's been given a home that really respects the books. It respects the series. Quill and Crow have been fantastic working on this series and giving it the love that it needs and the space that it needs to thrive. I don't talk a lot about the originally self-published versions because, again, they're not in distribution anymore. You can't get them. I'd rather people not be like sharing that content because it's like, this doesn't exist anymore. Can we just like put it to bed? It's been elevated since. And so when people are talking about my series, I really do hope that they're looking at these new ones, looking at Blood Coven and Ashen Heart coming out. It's my favorite book in the series, and I'm really excited for people to give it a shot. And I mean, we have to touch on the fact that it was the self-published version of Blood Coven that introduced you and I.
It was, this is literally, I have so much gratitude towards this series, because as sort of mentioned earlier, that Sabrina and I are best friends, and we live in completely opposite sides of the world. You live in Canada and I live in the UK, and if it wasn't for this book, we would never have, because we both were part of this Facebook book group, and you posted, hey, I've got my book out, please buy. And as this podcast suggests, I love supporting indie authors, anything really, indie music, indie art. I just feel like there's so much amazing talent out there that goes horrifically unsung. So I always try and do what I can. And you know, this book really appealed to my interests. Because, you know, self-published in Canada, couldn't really find it anywhere, unless I wanted to pay about £50 worth of shipping costs, which, I mean, for a book that I'd never heard of, that I didn't know if it was any good or not, I was like, So I DM'd you and I was like, oh, hey, you know, like, I want to buy your book, but I really don't want to have to pay £50. And you went sort of back and forth and tried to find out where it was going to be able to, you know, come out and things. And in that time, you and I just developed this very natural friendship. And, you know, 3.5 years later, here we are, and we're talking about your second novel fully published under Quill and Crow, and it's fully realized. And I feel like almost I've kind of come along on this journey with you, you know.
Oh, and you have. You've been
like
yeah.
So this is, I mean,
you beta read Ashen Heart before I sent it to Quill and Crow. Like, your input was phenomenal for not just validating the story because you loved it, but also giving input on where I could change. And obviously that was a success. So
oh well, welcome, but generally you're welcome anytime. And then and obviously I've read what is going to be the third book, and I've read the original before it's gone through a lot of edits and stuff, and I'm really super excited for when that comes out as well. That was not going to be for a little bit, so we won't talk about that yet. But yeah, no, it's been so wonderful to see this kind of like journey develop and be along that ride with you, basically. Yeah, it's just it's been very humbling and very joyous. I'm so proud of you. Anyway, from this smushy shit, let's get to sex. So as I said before, please. As I said before, there's like sort of, there's some romantic kind of things in Blood Coven, but there's no real kind of smut, whereas in here we got some smut, girl. How what was that decision process like about, like why have you kind of decided to put it in here? Is it why was that, and how did that come about?
Well, I mean, if you look at Blood Coven, like technically in a way, Blood Coven could be a YA novel in a sense. Like it's a lot of heavy themes, but a lot of YA books do. But I think the reason it doesn't fall into YA is because I do follow adult characters as well, like Matthias and Azalea, Juniper, Blaze, Anna. Half the book is written in the point of view of, adults, 30 to 60-year-olds. And then the other half is written in the point of view of people between the ages of like 17 and 21. Soren is a bit older than them, but that's not a story that I'm going to be writing about sex. I think between a couple of characters and the other side it could be, but the timeline being as short as it was, it doesn't lend itself to believable smut. And so these characters, that's just not what was in their stories. I'm not going to write about teenagers having sex. Teenagers have sex. Let's face it. I'm not going to write about it. Like if they do, if it's part of the story, like in Ashen Heart, there is, Terenia is 17 at the beginning and teenagers have sex. It's going to happen. But Terenia is an embodiment of what I see as like divine feminine, right? She is almost like in her own way a bit of a goddess, and she's ruthless, she's bloodthirsty, she's violent, she's power hungry. And part of all that, part of being a powerful person who knows what you want and will do what you need to take it, sex is part of that. Sex is something that brings so much power to you. I find it's something that in a way you're connecting to somebody and they could worship you. That's what I expect, nothing less than that.
Absolutely.
And
that's not
Terenia does too. Terenia wants to be worshipped. And if she is getting sex, it is to be worshipped. It's because she knows that she is a fucking queen.
Yeah.
And there's parts in that story where there's some more casual stuff. I wouldn't say that Ashen Heart is in any sense a romantic novel.
No.
The sex is not for the romance. It's not like it drives the plot.
It does.
It's not just in there for the sake of being in there. And Terenia being, I identify with her a lot in that she is pansexual. They wouldn't really have that term given the fact this is like a pseudo historical novel. Pansexual is not a term.
She's open.
Like she's gonna be with the people she wants to be with. And she shows a lot of different variants of how she has sex with people depending on who it is she's with. Yeah. And that was really fun to explore. I'm like, okay, this character, it's going to be like a little more full on, and she's going to be exuding those like the power that she has. And then there's other elements, other characters where she's a lot softer with. And it was fun to explore different sides of Terenia And you haven't read the final book yet, but some of that lends itself into that final book.
Yeah,
And
it's very annoying because I have asked, but it's still in its last stages of editing. So there is
you will get it.
I know. Well, I'll buy it. So, but yeah, it's no, it's. I mean, obviously, it's fun, but again, it's not a romantic book. Everything is for a reason. And this isn't a book that you buy expecting loads and loads of smart. It's not like, there are certain books that you buy because you're like, I know what I'm getting. And that's not that, but equally, it doesn't shy away from it either. There's no closed door scenes really. Like, you are getting, because as you say, the sex involved is either for character development or plot drive. And I would say that like one of your strengths as a writer is, and I've said this a million times and I'll say it again, like you have this amazing ability, one that I envy, of being able to keep things concise. And everything is for a reason. There is no waste in your books, but equally it doesn't feel like it's bare minimum either. You get everything that you need from that scene, that description, those character drives, the plot, everything. You get everything, but nothing goes to waste. And I would say that exactly right. Like nothing is incongruous in your books. Nothing is, just because, there's always a reason behind everything. And I just think that is a real talent, and it's a natural talent, I feel. So and it's really refreshing because I love a book that's waxes lyrical and it's very descriptive and things, but it is nice to mix that up, and it is nice to have books that just, they don't fuck around. And so I it's just furthering on your point, sort of, there is smart and sex, but it's not a smart book and it is for a reason. So expect with this book to have plot and to have well-rounded characters and to have certain perspectives that, whether or not you agree with them, they are fully developed and fully realized. So yeah, for sure. And that's not to say that Scott books don't have that, but just don't go in expecting it to be just bam bam, thank you ma'am,
Yeah. And like, I mean, can you write about a strong, powerful, sexually driven character who is in a blood cult if there's not a little bit of blood play?
I mean, give the audience what they want.
I write what my characters tell me to write.
It's just, you're being authentic.
And Tarania said, hey, I want this. And I said, yes, queen.
Yeah. Absolutely. Exactly.
No, I will not say no.
Absolutely. And we all thank you for that. Thank you, Tarania, for being that boss. So what was I gonna say? So one of the there's so many different themes, like your characters, your books are equally multifaceted when it comes to these sorts of things, and obviously like one of the themes in Ashen Heart is based loosely, but it's still based on like the evil queen, and obviously who's the fairest of them all, and it's all about like her need to stay young and eternally beautiful and be the most beautiful and be the best and be the most wanted. And I think that like we live in a society where pretty privilege is very much a thing, and like having things based on your looks, and like so much is put on that, and I feel like this is very much a running theme. It's not something that is smacked over the head, it doesn't force it down the reader's throats or anything, but it is something that is kind of like woven through this book. And there's this one line, God, I'm not going to say what it is, but there's this one line at the end which every time I read it, it crushes me, and I'll tell you what it is afterwards, because I'm not sure you know what it is.
I think I know what it is.
Maybe it is, I don't know, but yeah. And I'm just like, because I feel like our self-perception and other people's perceptions are often
I know what it is.
You know what it is? Very different things. And I feel like if we let ourselves be vulnerable to our flaws, it would just, she says with a face full of makeup, but like if we if we let ourselves be vulnerable to our flaws and said, you know what, actually this this is not real, or this is like, I don't look like this all the time, or hey, I've got like this going on, or this going on, or you know, whatever, then that thirst to look in particular ways and things, not everyone does. Some people are enlightened enough to not care so much, not this bitch, clearly. So but you know, I feel like, you know, we wouldn't put so much on this. So with that in mind, I was like, if you and Tareni were sat in a room and given Tarenia's need to be beautiful and the most beautiful, and that perception of herself, what would you say to her if you were given the chance?
I don't think we would talk.
Am I to take what okay. I think that means?
Yes. No.
Nice.
I think.
Same.
I mean, I've said it to you. I've said how beautiful. I mean, I woke up next to you.
Yeah, many times.
Lived with you for 2 weeks, and
you've not seen me at my best. You've seen me at my utter unkemptness.
You're always at your best. But anyways, what I was saying was, so obviously, like, there's sometimes this divide between like, you have to be au naturel, or you have to wear makeup, and like, if you wear makeup, you're tricking people, blah blah blah. If you don't wear makeup, you're sloppy or whatever. And it's like, it's all a balance. Like, wear makeup if you want to wear makeup. Don't wear makeup if you don't want to wear makeup, right? Like, I think like the human experience is beautiful. I think humans are beautiful. I think that wearing makeup is beautiful. I think not wearing his makeup is beautiful. And Tarenia is like naturally beautiful. Like, they're not going to have the same kind of makeup. She doesn't really wear makeup, so like, she is a very beautiful person in my mind. I think she wears red lipstick occasionally because that's just like really accents her, just the Snow White evil queen kind of thing going on in the story.
She wears it on like special occasions. She wears it
exactly.
She wants to stand out like that.
So I mean, I try to write, because like, I don't want to perpetuate this certain beauty of like, she's tall, she's slender, she's whatever, she's black hair, blue eyes. Like, I don't want to perpetuate like, that's what I think beauty is, because that's not necessarily what I think beauty is. This is how she appeared to me in my head. In earlier parts of the book, because it does cover quite a few years of her life, she is one way, and there's a 10-year jump. And there's a point where I mentioned that she's filled in, she's aged, she's gotten fuller in her cheeks, and she's got more, she's not as skinny as she was as a teenager, she's got more curves and stuff. And I really want to accent that, you know, that's beautiful. And even in the final book, I mentioned some changes that happened to her in that book, and how she starts to love different parts of herself that oftentimes we can be critical of. And so it's not just this perfect picturesque beauty that she wants, it's different beauties at different times, because she does mature, she does change, she does change things up in her life, and can recognize that sometimes our experience that changes our body is what makes us beautiful. And even though she's super narcissistic and she's super jaded and like envious of people and wants this, like, she wants to be beautiful and young forever. So she's got sort of Elizabeth Bathory sort of influence.
Yeah.
I don't want to perpetuate that that's what beauty is. And Tarenia is not again, she's not a character I want you to root for, but I want you to like her even though she's awful. And so her beliefs aren't what I'm trying to push, if that makes sense. Yeah. Some of them, yes, you know, she wants women to rise up, but she'll still tear women down.
Yeah.
So I don't want people to like put her up on a pedestal.
No. But I think
I want them to be invested in her.
Yes. And I think that's definitely the way that it comes across, you know, to me as well. And I think, you know, there's lots of different types of women described in this book, and all of them are beautiful in their own right. You know, you've got like broader women, you've got slimmer, we've got blonde, you've got redheads, you've got, you know, lots of different types of women, different ages, different ways of life, you know, and they all make an impression somehow, you know. And I think that that's really positive, and yeah, it's definitely good to see. And yeah, I'm very intrigued because I haven't read the last book, so I'm very intrigued to see how her journey concludes, and this growth of which you speak. But yeah, I mean, like, you know, as you said, though, she is a put it, a force to be reckoned with, and she isn't to be put on a pedestal. She's not. There are some really heinous things that she does, and some of it we can understand from her perspective, some of it not I mean, in my opinion, not so much. But yeah. I was just going to ask, like, can you tell us about I mean, not necessarily to do with Terenia, it could be any part of it, but is there because there's a lot of brutality, and I mean, we're dealing with a blood cult, and there's vampires, and there's, you know, all of this. So yeah, can you sort of divulge a little bit about some of the more brutal scenes for our like horror fans?
Yeah, so I touch on some brutal scenes in Blood Coven. Obviously there's a wolf that slaughters families. Like, there's implications there that, you know, theoretically he's killed people of all ages because he was forced to.
Yeah.
I lean in a lot to gore and, you know, violence and backstabbing and just ruthlessness. Like, one of the lines that really carries Ashen Heart is to be ruthless. And it's said a couple of times in the story that Terenia wants to be ruthless. There's a character who wants her to be ruthless, and that's really what it's all about, is like this pressure of like, you can't get anywhere unless you are ruthless. And it is a story about how power corrupts us and changes us. And I mean, the whole series of the Bloodbound series is about power corrupting. You see it with Azalea, you see it with Red, you see it with so many characters in Blood Coven. And it doesn't mean it corrupts everyone, because there's some characters with power who don't use it in a negative way. You look at, you know, Alina, she's got power and she doesn't want to do harm to people. And so with Ashen Heart and with Terenia and you know, the people she's surrounded with, Roman and Ivan, ruthlessness is seen as what's going to get you ahead. And if you are not willing to make the most ruthless decision, you're not good enough. You are not strong enough. And that's something that causes a divide between the Brotherhood, right? That's kind of a key element in a couple of these stories. Is characters who aren't ruthless, they're not going to cut it. And how does that impact them? And what kind of breaks does that cause between the dynamics between family and found family? I guess you can call it found family.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Dysfunctional, but
you know. Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that all of that is 100% correct. So yeah, so like what you're saying with the brutality of it and things is that, like, again, it's not incongruous, it's not, you know, just for the sake of it, it's all to do with how these things sort of develop, and how the characters go. Okay, cool. And then what was I going to ask? Oh yeah, so obviously we've touched on fairy tales, we've touched on like more like horror aspects and things. What are some of your like favorite fairy tales and like horror inspirations? And has any kind of, obviously you've mentioned Elizabeth
Bathory.
Bathory, thank you. And you know, a few other things. Is there anything else that has influenced your work, or just that you just personally love as like a horror fan?
Yeah. So I definitely, I will say I wrote Ashen Heart prior to seeing the film Byzantium. There is a lot of connections. Byzantium is a vampire film that's a dual timelines. It's like the before and after of these characters. And there's one thing about that book or that movie, and it's about the vampires take away. They say women can't be vampires. Women aren't permitted to what they say is give life. In that you're not allowed to make another vampire you're not allowed to make another vampire. And I'm like, you are taking away this part that like like
it's intrinsic to being a woman for a lot of the time, like
for cisgendered women. Your ability to give life, like that's a huge thing in throughout history, is like that was like something that we could do, right? Or had to do, depending. And to have that stripped away, to say like, oh, you're not allowed to do this, and just it's giving life in the sense of like turning somebody into a vampire, but taking that away from this character, I found that fascinating. And that's nothing to do with Ashen Heart at all, but just this idea of a patriarchy, a hierarchy, a brotherhood, and then thinking they know what is best and it crumbling.
Definitely.
So there's some draw between that.
Definitely. And I think as well, just having any choice as a woman that we're given removed, because say throughout history we've had so little choice in anything that we do, whether it's having children, whether it's being married, whether it's having money, whether it's voting, whether it's literally women had no choice on anything for the longest time. And we're still fighting a lot of these rights today, when it comes to things like trans women, and it comes to even like in other countries and cultures and things, there's still so much work to be done. So I feel like even though we don't face the same
hardships
that Terenia does and the people in her life do, there's still a relatability there. And and her ideas are very progressive, and that's something that is true of all your books. They're very progressive in terms of the messages that they send out, and and I feel like there is something here that, like, I'm not saying that just women can relate, but that women in particular will be able to relate to, and having that choice. I mean, even just the life that Terenia is so desperately trying to avoid, of being married off and having children and all of this kind of thing. And then when she actively tries to avoid those things and leave the people who would see her live that life, among other reasons, she ends up still in a very patriarchal society, even though it's supposed to give her freedom and power. She's still being minded by men in charge. And I think that that's a really interesting aspect to the story. And it's very much there, but it's not beating you over the head with it. And it's just something that happens very organically and naturally, because of the characters and because of the situations and time that they're in. So fair play, absolutely. So I was going to ask you some little questions, just like nothing too deep. One of them, so without going into like spoilers too much, I'll let you say it so that I don't blur anything a bit more than I should. So can you explain about a little bit about Roman's offer? So Roman is this, I don't want to say anything.
I'll take it away.
You take over.
So Roman is a very daunting character. He was a lot of fun to write. I really enjoyed getting into his, like, I don't write in his point of view, but we get to know a lot about Roman in this book. And he's very calculated. He's very cold. He knows what he's doing, but he's quite reserved in the same way, or at the same time, I suppose. So the offer that he extends to Terenia is basically saying, I can give you everything you want. And what she wants is power and beauty, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he says that he can give it to her. So if Roman came up to me and offered me the things that I want most in this world, I mean, we've all been cautioned of, you know, if the devil were to offer you something, there's always a catch, right?
Yeah.
But if it was Roman with his charisma, and I feel like I probably would, depending on the state I was in. So obviously, no, okay. Obviously, if you're at a good place in your life, you don't necessarily need to take that offer. Like, if you're comfortable with the things you have, you might not have everything. But if he were to come offer it to me right now, I'd be like, no, actually, I'm good. I have everything I need. My emotional needs are met. My cups are full.
Yeah.
If I was in this Tyrannius situation, what does she risk? What is she losing?
Yeah.
No. If you have nothing to lose and somebody says, hey, I can, and maybe I'm saying that, like, maybe I am vulnerable of being part of a cult. I don't know. I'm not. But
the devil takes many guises.
Exactly. But they prey on people who don't have.
That's exactly right.
Isolated. Yeah.
No,
and
exactly.
I won't speak too much more about his offer and how that works or doesn't work for her. But if I was in her shoes, yes, I think I would.
Yeah. I think I would, even if I wasn't in her shoes. I'm really impulsive. So
also, like,
blue eyes as well.
He's got a thing about him.
He does have he has a thing about him. Yeah.
Like, yeah, I won't go into too much to spoil anything, but like, you're not gonna get a whole lot out of Roman, but like, I think I would still be like, yes, sir.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I concur.
Yeah.
All right. So if you had to cook a meal for one of your characters, who would it be and what would you cook? And you can't say blood because that's a cop out.
Okay, but they're vampires.
I know, but if you were going to actually have to cook them a meal, what would you cook them? And it doesn't have to be anybody. It could be any one of your characters. So,
well, you know when Hannibal Lecter eats Ray Liotta's brain?
Right. Right.
I feel like the best way to impress any of those characters is to grab someone who's pursuing them or, you know, pissing them off, because that's all it really takes for Roman.
Yeah.
And serve their brain on a platter.
Yeah. All right. Very good.
I feel like if I were to take them out to dinner, I would go to that restaurant from The Menu with Ralph Fiennes.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I'd be like, y'all are fucked up enough to enjoy this.
Yeah, and also
they
don't need to eat much, so those tiny weeny portions are fine. Me, however, no thanks. I need something actually filling. I mean, it's funny you mentioned Hannibal, because like my idea would be something like that Hannibal would make, you know, like in the TV show. You know, if anyone's seen that, like the kind of dishes that he presents are just like masterful, and they're so decadent, and you know, there's things that are like illegal and unethical and stuff. So I think I'd probably serve something like that.
Yeah, I think they would appreciate the shit out of that. I feel like for Ivan, I could give him like a black coffee, and he'd be like, I'm gonna bow down to you.
Yeah, give him a black coffee and like a rare steak. Boom. Done.
Yeah.
Like, all right. Like, like I feel like is a man of very simple taste. Like he's a very straightforward.
Oh, you know what I would feed Ivan?
Oh, yeah. Okay. Come on then. This is why we're friends. This is why we're friends. You would be the dish and he would be the table. It's okay. It's fine. I've clicked.
There's no character that I have ever written who has got me like smitten, other than a raging psychopath.
What is it about the raging psychopath that just gets us all going? I don't understand.
Is that a red flag? I'll take two.
Yes, thank you. Let's not drive by that one. Let's just stop and just pick that one up. Thanks.
Green? No, I don't really like green.
Boring. Green is not my color. Thank you. Bright red, clearly. Yeah.
Says the girl who has an entire room painted green.
I don't, but I do quite like green. But like that dark green. So like green flags maybe, but with like an edge. A sharp edge. All right, cool. So coming to the end now, if you could describe selling point, if you could describe Ashen Heart in 3 words, it's a basic question, but I feel like it's a good way to sort of sign off. How would you describe it in 3 words?
I know that I should have prepared for this question.
Yeah, it's not like you didn't ask me this question and I gave you a whole list of words yesterday, but it's fine.
Just like play the Jeopardy music.
I don't know what that sounds like.
I don't either. I don't have cable. I would say ruthless. Unforgiving.
Nice.
Yeah. Unforgiving / unapologetic. And can I say spicy?
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna go with spicy.
Because
right now it's the only novel I have that has like actual proper spice throughout. And I think that's why it's my favorite book. And it's why I think that it's your favorite book in the series. And hopefully everyone else who reads it, hopefully it's your favorite book in the series.
Yeah. But in saying that, though, as I said, I've read 3 of them, and that's not to say that they drop off after this. It's just this one is it's unrelenting, I'd say.
I think the series has like a little bit for everyone. Like Blood Coven's a little more soft while still pushing like the witchcraft and the feminism. The third book is, I would say the third book is the most wholesome.
Yeah, I can see that, but there's definite, I mean, there are moments though where I'm like,
there's some body horror.
There's some real, I mean, I'm a horror fan. I read a lot of horror books. I've watched horror films. I have 2 horror movie podcasts, and I remember reading that book being like, oh my God, no. Like I had
fun with that one.
Yeah, I bet. I mean, it's wholesome, but Jesus, like it definitely it's not the Brady Bunch.
Because when I get a good character, when I get like a wholesome male character, they're my favorite. I love to break them.
Yeah,
I really, really love to just, I'm kind of like Terenia that way. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna crush you.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna have fun doing it.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's quite funny because when I reread Ashen Heart for this, and I've got like, because the first time I read it was near 2 years ago, and our friendship and everything has developed over the last 2 years, as any friendship would, and like obviously I know you so much more, and all of this, and like definitely see you in Terenia. Like
especially lately. I feel like when we first met, I was much more almost Alina-esque. A bit more quiet. I would say in the last few months, I've really been channeling my inner Terenia.
You're in your villain era, and we love that. So yeah,
we do.
Girl. Same. Always same. You and I. All right, awesome. So that is the interview concluded. Blood Coven is available to buy online currently. That is through Quill & Crow Publishing House, Amazon, and recently has been uploaded to Audible, so you can catch that however you read. And Ashen Heart is due for release on the 15th of March this year, and that is also available through Quill & Crow on pre-order currently, so I encourage encourage you to go out and put that through. There will be links in the comments, you know, and all over my social media and stuff. And yeah, so, and then obviously once it's released, it will be on Amazon and such as well. But I had a quick look today and it's not available currently for pre-order on Amazon or anything. But it is there if you want to bookmark it or anything. Like I thoroughly suggest that you do, because you don't want to miss out on this book. It's absolutely wonderful. And you don't have to check out Blood Coven to enjoy this one, but just for your own reading goodness, I would suggest you also check out Blood Coven as well, because it is a fantastic book, both of them. And I'm so excited to get my proper copy of Ashen Heart in my hands. So that you've been watching or listening to Kate Anjou's book reviews. You can catch me on TikTok and Instagram on kate.anjou. That is ANJOU. kate.anjou.book.reviews, or you can check me out on Facebook under Kate Anjou's book reviews, or you can pop me an email at kateanjou'sbookreviews@outlook.com. Thank you very much for joining me today. Sabrina, thank you so much for coming on. It has been an absolute delight. And and we will definitely be following your series and your career, and I'm sure you'll be on again in future. So thank you so much.
Only if you'll have me.
Always.
Always. Well, thank you so much for having me. I had a lot of fun, which is no surprise. I love talking to you about books because you have such good insight. I mean, yesterday I asked you, I'm like, how would you describe Ashen Heart? Like, give me some words. And you were like, boom, paragraph. And I was like, whoa, okay. Are you like,
off the top of my head?
I appreciate the marketing help. I really do. And I love talking about books with you, and I just appreciate the hell out of your commentary and your love of subtext. Sluts for subtext. That's what it was.
Subtext. Oh yeah. Yeah. So yeah, we're going to do our own, basically this show, but both of us. But you are so busy with your books and general life things. So yeah, so I ventured out on my own, but I'm so glad I get to share this with you in this way, and hopefully, you know, maybe you can come on and maybe do some things, and you know, we'll see what's up. But yeah, we had a name of it. Was it Sluts for Subtext? Because we are.
Thank you for coming to my TikTok.
Yeah, my TikTok. If I ever do a Patreon, that's what it's called.
Hell yeah, you'll get people rolling in.
Oh, and here's me thinking, here's something that I'd have to sell myself, but we move.
We are sex positive here.
We are sex positive, sex workers work. So, you know,
yeah.
You got to flaunt it. Right. Yeah. That is it from me. I think that is it from you. So thanks very much. And I'll catch you later.
Thank you.